everyone, I'm going to do some scene reads from the Bones of Wrath Terrors. Out now as an ebook, but also in 6-bone Anthology 6, out now under my middle grade name of TK Wrathbone. And now I'm doing a scene read from A Rake Is Not Just a Garden Tool. An animal screeched, making the boys jump. Quinn took the opportunity to talk into the camera. And there you have the Screechus hideous, a bird-like creature who sounds as if it's being strangled to death or it's excreting in its pants. Laughter burst from the boys and they kept going, with Quinn walking backwards towards the entrance. And now we're about to enter the Hospitalis. Quinn carefully stepped backward through the doorway and lowered his voice. We must now be as quiet as possible to not disturb any other beings that may be in these ruins. He paused in what was the main lobby and looked into the camera. We have now entered the inner sanctum of the Abandonedus Hospitalis, and as you can see, the main desk still stands. The signs on the wall are still intact, and there are clear signs of horribilis graffitius, where humans and creatures alike have excreted their signs of ownership all over. More giggling escaped the boys, but they kept it low. Quinn spread his arms out and slowly turned in a circle. As you can see, the inner sanctum is like a spider. Many legs extend from the main body. You have the left leg, which leads to longer legs lined with rooms. To the right, you have more legs leading to offices and waiting rooms. And to the back, we have what was once the outdoor green space for humans to sit and bake in the sunshine. It also has liftus apparatus, an electronic device that lifted humans to the multitude of floors above it. Quinn played up for the camera. And now we're going to explore the inner sanctum some more with a look into the outdoor space that once gave humans a place to bathe in the sun. He led the boys towards the outdoor garden that was once enclosed in glass and which sat in the middle of the four walls of the building. It was overgrown and littered with 20 years of rubbish and graffiti. As you can see, what was once a beautiful green garden has now turned into a cesspool of excrement left by humans and animals. Which is a shame because it was once so beautiful. Come, let us explore the rest of the Hospitalis. He led them through the right downstairs branch of the hospital where waiting areas and exam rooms were once filled with doctors and patients. They didn't go further than the corner of the hallway on the right side before turning back, not wanting to disturb whatever was down there and not knowing if you could walk right around the hospital or whether it would be too difficult. They made it back to the lobby and crossed over to the other corridor that led past offices. They saw a few squatters sleeping in the rooms and kept on going, exchanging glances with each other to be silent and move on. They made it halfway down the side corridor before turning back. Arriving back in the lobby, Quinn spoke up. As you can see, the Hospitalis may have been abandoned by regular humans, but a subhuman known as Nowhere to Go as Squatterus has grown in those subterranean sections of the Hospitalis. While few and far between, they have come to exist out of need and necessity, and so we move on. Quinn slowly walked towards the main staircase, now proceeding to the second floor to see what we can find elsewhere. This staircase seems to still be in good condition, and it doesn't require electricity as the liftus apparatus that died a long time ago does. He carefully took step for step up the concrete and metal stairs that led up to the first floor. And so we come to the upstairs, the next flight up from the ground floor, which contains the wings for mothers and newborns, and the wing for infants, and the childrenus terribilis tuus, where small humans would come when they were sick. I'm trying to sound like David Attenborough, which is what Quinn's trying to do. A sound came from Quinn's left, the boys' right, and they all turned towards it. With pounding hearts and wide eyes, Quinn whispered, and so it seems that the residue of those small humans is still present. And if it's not, then maybe it's the Nowhere to Go as Squatterus making a racket. Shall we go and find out? He glanced at the boys who just stared back. We shall go and have a look then. Another brief glance and Quinn slowly moved into the corridor leading to the children's ward. Stopping to look in each room but not entering, he glanced over his shoulder at the boys every time he did so. Judd had his back to Armand's, so the two of them filmed from front and back, which meant no one could come up behind them with a surprise attack. Emmett and Gibson were on either side and had their baseball bats ready to strike. Armand nodded to Quinn and kept walking behind him, feeling Judd's back against his. He was grateful they had weapons because this was even starting to freak him out. The sun had risen and slowly lowered, making it close to 4 in the afternoon. They had been there for over 4 hours and it was time to finish. Reaching the end of the corridor, they found the hall to the right blocked by a roof collapse. The rubble was chest to head high, and Armand held his camera up to film over the blockade. Can't see much, he whispered. Time to head back. It's getting late and we'll be dark soon. Let's wrap things up. Quinn nodded and moved around so he was walking backwards, back the way they'd come. And so we come to conclude this tour of the abandoned hospitalis. As you can see, it has become a refuge for the wild and untamed, and will no doubt stay that way until humans once again take control of it. They reached the halfway mark of the hallway, and Quinn saw Aman's eyes widen as he ground to a halt. Then he saw Gibson and Emmett look past him. Their eyes widened and they stopped short. What? The hair prickled on the back of his neck, and every fibre of his being told him not to turn around. Why'd everyone stop? Judge turned around and peered between Armand and Emmett, seeing the creature in the distance. What is that? Back the way we just came, Armand replied softly as his hand snaked out to grab Quinn's. He saw the creature lower itself to the floor, so it was on its hands and feet, its back level to the ground. Its body was white, almost translucent and hairless. Run, he shouted, and turned on his heels. Quinn was spun around by the movement and finally saw what had stopped his friends in their tracks. A being so ugly and terrifying, it was like an alien running on all fours. The loudest screech came from its throat. And now I'm doing a reading from Well. Tristan grinned at him before glancing at his watch. We have enough time to check the well. It's on the way down the hill, so it's not too far. It's usually empty, but there have been some noises heard echoing from the depths of its bowels by trespassers who have camped here at night. He set off away from the stream. Since this is a national park, we're not permitted to stay the night to protect the area. But, as you know, some people don't listen and don't care, and break the rules anyway. A scowl fled across his handsome face. I guess they get their just desserts when they get the fright of their life. Has anyone figured out what's causing the sound? Shelby asked, bringing up the rear with Marissa and Samara. Has anyone bothered looking? A few people have come out every now and then when campers would bolt into town as if a ghost was after them and end up in the local pub drowning their fears in alcohol. A couple of search parties came out after reports that some of the trespassers had disappeared, but nothing was ever found. No bodies, no packs, no proof that those people were even here, and no search party has ever found what causes the sounds they'd heard. He stepped into a small circular clearing about 20 by 20 foot round with an old stone well in the centre and stopped at the tree line, waiting for the kids to catch up. There she is, he whispered, and slowly gazed around. The sun bypassed the tree line, so it didn't reach the well, but there was still enough light to see clearly. However, an eerie chill tickled the back of his neck and caused him to shiver. It's a bit creepy without decent sunlight. Samara shivered. It certainly is. Looking over her shoulder into the brush they'd just passed, she sensed someone watching. Nah, don't be a bunch of wusses, Wing grinned. It's just as well. Hey, Elias, still got your phone on? Let's check it out. The two boys walked straight over to the stone circle and peered over the edge. Hello, Wing called down and heard his echo reverberate. When the noise stopped, he looked back at the others. See, nothing down there. Oh. Ah! Win and Elias jumped back. What the hell was that? Wing gasped, beating a hasty retreat away from the well. What was that? Probably just the echo of your voice, Kobe said, the hair standing up on the back of his neck. That was creepy. Marissa shuddered and linked her arm with Shelby's. Here, Elias shoved his phone at Win to hold and pulled out a small video camera from his backpack. I'll keep recording while you check that footage. He aimed the camera at the well and kept recording. Okay, check the phone footage. Win quickly hit play on the video. They all heard them talking, Win calling out hello, and then not 10 seconds later, a reply came back. Ugh. Shelby shuddered and clung to Marissa. That's even creepier. Elias's eyes darted from the video camera to his phone. What was that? Rewind it. To where? Win touched the screen. To where I lean over the well. Watch for after you yell into it and he answers. Watch closely. His gaze darted back and forth between the well and the phone. There. Win zoomed in. What the hell? Two bright blue eyes stared up at them in the video. Are they? They can't be. Just not possible. What would live down in a well? I don't know, but I don't like it. Kobe stared dead straight at the well in the middle of the clearing. I'm stumbling over myself. If there was something in there, he didn't want to see it. A soulless wail came up from the bottom of the well. Clearly not a human. Shelby inched towards the left. Is it an animal? Maybe an animal is trapped down there and those blue lights are its eyes. She slowly dragged Marissa with her as their arms were still linked. I just had a weird thought. Wynne stared at the well. It's like a portal to another place and time. Maybe it's an alien. How deep is that thing? No one's actually sure, Tristan murmured, his eyes never leaving the well. He certainly hadn't been expecting this today. Some have said it's only 20 feet, others 50. Some have said there's no bottom. Drifted into the late afternoon air. And now we're doing a scene read from Elizabeth Wants to Play. What's going on? Zeb asked. Is this place haunted or what? Because it's freaking me out. He crossed his arms over his chest, almost hugging himself. This is getting creepy, and you didn't tell us your grandma's house was like a freak show museum. Yeah, Gage agreed. I'm freaked out a bit too. How long do we have to be here? And is there anything we can do to keep our minds off all of this? There's the TV room, Levi suggested, but that's not fun. Let's show you the rest of the house. There's better stuff upstairs where Grandma's turned all of the bedrooms into museums. Come on. He had started leading the way to the front landing stairs when a sound rattled against the basement door that was under the stairs. He stopped and stared down at it. Now what's going on? What is it? Harlan came to his side. Someone in the basement? What was it? Sounded like something small fell against it or hit it. Levi answered and reached for the door. Do you really want to do that? Rupert took a step back. With all of the other freaky stuff in this house and the knocking, do you really want to open that door? There's only toys in the basement. Levi shook his head in amusement and opened the door. It swung open and Harlan flicked the light switch on the inside wall. There was a doll lying on the second step down. The cousins traded a glance with each other, puzzled as to how it got there, but not as to what usually happened in the house. She's new. Harlan gently picked her up under the armpits. Hello, new doll. What are you doing all the way up here? Grandma would have put you on a shelf with all of the other dolls. He studied the blonde, shoulder-length bob and the updated clothes. Definitely not an old doll. Clothes are new and current. So's the hair. You do know you're talking to a doll, right? Gage snickered. And you're holding it. Harlan glanced over his shoulder to his friends. You obviously don't know how to respect other people's belongings. His gaze turned to his cousin. They knew full well they had to treat these items with respect. Their grandmother had taught them well. She believed that these items more than likely held some residual effect of the previous owners who'd passed and would always treat such objects as dolls as if they were people. The boys were more alike than just in their 5'8", brown curly-haired, blue-eyed looks. At 15, they had been taught from birth to respect others' belongings. And the afterlife. Well, miss, Harlan said to the doll, let's get you back downstairs. I'm sure Grandma set a place for you to play with the other dolls. He carried her downstairs into the well-lit basement that had been turned into a toy room. Levi and the other boys followed, keeping an eye out for toys underfoot. Well, look here. Looks like everyone's been having a party. He sidestepped teddy bears, dolls, toys of all vintages on the floor and several tea party sets to place the doll on a small chair. I'm not sure where Grandma put you since so many toys are off their shelves, but I'll let her know you're all having a tea party and she can put you back. The bright fluorescent light bounced off the white roof. Floor-to-ceiling shelving units lined 3 walls and children's tables and chairs sat filled with dolls and bears. We'll let you guys get back to your party. Boys, come along. He led the way upstairs and waited until they filed out one by one before he shut and locked the door. Come and see the upstairs rooms. You'll get a kick out of them. When they reached the bottom of the stairs and started heading up, they heard a thump against the basement door. Oh, you are kidding, Harlan muttered and looked at his cousin. She can't be. He stepped down and looked along the hall to the basement door and saw it shudder slightly as another thump happened. Persistent little thing, isn't she? Levi walked around him to stare down the hallway. Guess she wants to play. Exchanging a curious glance with his cousin, Harlan approached the basement door, unlocked it, and swung it open to reveal the same doll lying on the second step. With a little trepidation, Harlan picked her up as he had before and carefully carried her downstairs. Now, you know Grandma's not going to be happy about this. I'm sure she wanted you to stay down here and play with the other dolls. As he crossed the floor towards the chair he'd left her in the first time, he felt a warmth radiate from her torso and he nearly dropped her into the chair. Ah, you are a little firecracker, aren't you? Please stay down here this time. You have everyone to play with, and I'm sure Grandma doesn't want anyone getting out in case they get hurt. She'll be back to see you all later. He observed the rest of the boys as he turned and walked toward the stairs, but a rustling behind him pricked up his ears and made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He kept walking, but he turned his head and looked over his shoulder. He didn't see anything different, but he felt it. Hey! He stopped, his arms flying out to steady himself, and he stared down at his right calf. There was the doll, attached to his right leg, her arms and legs wrapped around her, and she was biting him. Oi, you little... Having never experienced something so ridiculously evil or hilarious, such as this before, he didn't know whether to laugh or freak out. He wrestled with it, hopping on his left leg while trying to get the doll off his right leg. Hey, stop that! He managed to pull both of its arms off, only for the doll to bite him again. Not wanting to violate his grandmother's rules, but not knowing what else to do, he karate chopped the back of its neck and stunned it into releasing him. Holding her up, he saw its eyes fire up red. Uh-oh! He drop-kicked her to the other side of the basement and bolted up the stairs, slamming the door behind him. He locked it just in time as the doll pounded against it, making it tremble. What the hell? Levi saw his cousin's whiter-than-white face and glassy eyes. Is that thing possessed or what? Oh, it's possessed all right, Harlan panted. His body heated up and then it grabbed onto my leg and bit me. He pulled up his right jean leg and saw red marks on his skin, and when I got it off, its eyes turned red, so I kicked it across the room and raced up here. The door thudded and he quickly moved away. It's possessed all right. I wonder if Grandma knows it. Levi jumped and stared in horror at the small frosted glass window in the door. The doll's hands were flat against the glass, her face pressed into it before she slid down to the step below. And there were some scene reads from the Bones of Wrath Terrors. Out now as an ebook, or in 6-bone Anthology 6, all out under my middle grade name of TK Wrathbone, in large print paperback, trade paperback, hardcover laminate, and dust jacket laminate, all at good online bookstores.